everyone. It is 6 o'clock on May 18th, 2021. Present from the Conservation Commission are Jared Gentilucci, Skip Clark, Melissa Danza, and myself, Peter Crane. We have a quorum, and so I am opening this meeting of the Rutland Conservation Commission. Let me hold on. Let me do a share like that. And that window went away. Of course it did. You come over here and do this, and you. There we go. Get my life in order one of these days. I promise, and one of these days is in about 12 years. Unless there's an objection, I'm going to waive the reading of the remote participation meeting notice. Hearing no objections, we're moving on. Before we go to our normal agenda, there are two things we need to discuss. One is that I got complaints today. I've got 4 phone calls from different people about Jared, our favorite road in the world, Glenwood Place. I've been told that the days are filling wetlands is in fact the health agent is a smart guy and he's done the business for a long time and he recognized wetland plants that were being destroyed. Now, I don't know anything more than that at this point, that he's moving a lot of dirt and filling in some spaces. And I do know that my name was used saying that we gave him permission to do it. So we need somebody to go out there. I'm actually booked for the next week. So I can't do it until the weekend. So Jared, is it possible that you could swing out there and or Skip? Because
I'd be more than glad to go up there, but there's going to be kind of a conflict of interest because of being on the select board and one of the neighbors is a selectman and blah, 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 blah.
Well, there is that. I will say the select board member is not
not involved, I know that.
But who can get out? And I'd like somebody who was there on the previous site walk, which we'll be discussing soon enough. But we need somebody to get out there so that we can be sure that there isn't a problem. And if there isn't actually a problem, I'd be so happy. But we need somebody to go look at it, and that would be me or Jared or Skip or Joe.
So Peter, my schedule over the next few days is unfortunately also quite busy with work up through Friday. I could do Saturday. That's probably the earliest I can do, though.
All right, I'll look at my calendar a little more closely to see if I can come up with a time before then. And if not, we'll go out there Saturday and we'll figure it out.
Would you want me to grab a hold of Joe Delaquella and drag him up there, the two of us?
I think that would be fantastic, because you guys were there. You heard everything that was said, so you know what we said was okay and what we said wasn't. And they are throwing names around willy-nilly about everybody who approved them to do stuff. So I just don't know what they're doing, and it's scary that too many people have said there's a problem.
Or Skip, even if Joe can't, if you want to go with me, because you were there at the first, or were you at the first one?
I was at the second one, yes, not the very first.
So if you need someone else to go with you, I'm free tomorrow, worst case scenario, if you need a backup.
Well, why don't we do that?
All right.
The only thing I do have is a doctor's appointment from 11 to 12.
Okay, I should be home by 3:30 or 4, so do we want to schedule for 4?
Sure, that sounds good.
Okay, I can do that.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Peter, can you confirm which address is it are we talking about?
The days.
Okay.
Jared, I think it's 91 Glenwood Place.
I think you're right.
I
Yeah,
think that's
I think
exactly
so.
right, but I didn't want. I picked a name of a person rather than the number because I wasn't certain about the number. But I believe you're correct. Okay, so you guys will go out. I will text Skip and Melissa if I can make it at that time also. And
Peter, did you want me to send him an email or do you want this to be unannounced?
no, you know what? Let's send an email.
Okay.
Because he's being very, very public about it, so let's just send an email to say, here's when we're gonna be out there, we'd like to meet with you to understand the scope of
Oh,
work.
good. I can do that.
Thank you. Okay, now for the next thing. I hope you all have enjoyed Zoom. For those of you who don't know the details of what the governor announced yesterday, one of the things he announced is that the emergency declaration for COVID expires June 15th. That means we have to go back to doing the old way of doing business, and that means in-person meetings. Now, there are a couple of asterisks about how many people have to be in the room, but basically we have to start getting ready to do in-person meetings. I've persuaded the town administrator to continue Zoom through at least through the end of July, and then another decision will be made about continuing Zoom. I'm of the opinion that we should continue doing Zoom because I think it's a great option for the public, and it's a great option for remote participation when other people, when some people need to be on the road, like Melissa tonight. And Zoom is a lot easier to deal with than the phone call, which I've done before, but anyway. So June 15th is our first in-person in the library meeting. June 1 has too many conflicts. That one has to say Zoom and Zoom only because we don't have a space to meet. So there's this meeting, there's June 1, which is completely Zoom, and there is where I won't even be in the library that day, and June 15 when we need a quorum in the room. Before June 15, I'll get clarification from the Board of Health about distancing requirements and mask usage. I know what they are today, but since everything changes within the next month, we'll have to see how that goes. Any questions? No. Moving on, let's do our back to our agenda, to our regularly scheduled program. Minutes, May 4. Very nice minutes. Thank you, Tamika.
Motion to accept as written.
Second.
Great. Any questions, comments, corrections? Okay, hearing nothing. Roll call vote. Clark.
Clock eye.
Gentilucci.
Aye.
Danza.
Aye.
Crane eye. Those are accepted. So now we have a couple submissions for 153 and 155 Turkey Hill Road. Do we have anyone here to speak for that?
Peter, I did invite Jim to attend tonight, but I didn't hear back from him.
Okay.
And I don't see him on the call.
Well, fortunately, we do have the NOIs and we do have the designs. They're all on the folder, folks. So it is very clear to me that since this is the 100, no wait, that's the 50, that's 100. Oh, but this is the 50 from here, which means this is the 100 that cuts through the house. Clearly needs an NOI. Okay. Looks like a single family house, septic. Where's the well? Is there no well? I don't.
It's at the front of the house, Peter. Right near the 50
here,
foot.
right there.
Yep. Yep.
Hey, the big marker with proposed well. How about that? So he's well inside the 50. In some parts especially, so we will definitely want him to be, or a representative to be present. Nicely marked wetlands, I'll say that, or at least they are on the map. We should probably do a site walk, shouldn't we? Okay, so, because there's this one and there's the next one. But they're next door to each other, so that's not much of a problem. I can make time Saturday for a site walk. Can anybody else?
I can do that.
I have Southborough town meeting Saturday morning, but I live pretty close to here, so I'm very familiar with these, so I'm good on that front.
Okay. Then, what time do you feel good for, Jared?
You want to say 10 a.m., our usual time?
Sure.
Unless you want to do earlier.
You know, 10's good in case they have somebody who wants to show up and talk some things through with us. And this is Turkey Hill Road. This is what number?
It's right by the fire pond at the intersection of Irish and Turkey Hill.
Ah, okay. That was a mistake. Don't do that. Okay, that's fine. Turkey Hill Road, set it for 10, and we'll do both of those. Might as well post it, Tamika, just in case other people show up. So given that, that takes care of this one, and we have another submission for the adjacent property, which looks, that's the 50, I need to orient myself here a little bit. Oh, that's the 100. Wow, he's putting a lot, okay, well, again, more points to discuss things. We'll have to see how far away that silt fence is, because it's pretty close to his flags, but I don't know if that's, well, if that's 50, that's going to be 10 or 15. Oh, I think it says 15 down there, doesn't it? Yes, it does. So we can see roughly how close he is. We can see there's a lot of grading going on, a ton of fill. Single family house, septic, well, way out there. Huh. Okay, wait a minute. Oh no, because he's gonna trench it probably all the way to the well. All right. Again, I don't know. We can't answer questions. We can only ask them and think about them for this. Excuse me. We will do both of these site walks at the same time. Questions or comments on that before we move on? Alrighty, so now I'm going to, well, actually, I'm not going to open a hearing yet. I know it says, I know it's been posted, I know it's there. Hey, Julian,
Hello?
why are we here? Because I've seen, there are orders of condition on these properties, aren't there? On one,
Well, that property was split into more lots. There are orders of conditions, but that lot 6 was now subdivided into more lots. So there was a order of conditions for lot 6. Now there is actually lot 6A, 6B, 6C, and 6D.
oh,
So it went from like a 7-8, actually, from like a 40-acre parcel to 4 lots at this point.
okay. Well then, I'm going to
But the wetland was defined years ago, and then again, you guys have been out there a million times, I think. I haven't with you, but with the engineer from Nantucket,
Mm-hmm.
those wetlands were defined as an NRAD, then it was used in notice of intent, And I submitted a plan of what showed, you know, where the line was that was used for all the other projects. And it all looks good, and we just use that same line.
Okay, so 113 and 115 are, it's what, 6A, 6B, or 6A, 6?
I'd have to, you have them, let's take a look here. Yeah, so it's going down the hill, so it would be, let me see how to do it. Lot 113 is lot 6C.
Okay,
And the other one is lot 6D. So they're looking at the drawing you have, that's the one that you guys did approve.
right,
So we're going to the left of that. But the wetland line is, that one stays, and then there's lots going down the hill. Sorry, I shouldn't say down the hill, it's going to looking at the plan to the right. So if you can pull up
right, okay.
my site plan, you'll see it better.
I don't think, actually, I might have it in the email. All I had on this lot was the NOI.
So lot 6, and if you go to the right where you got wetland CA24, CA25, that's all part of these new lots. That one dock line no longer is subdividing it, but there's 2 lots in that vicinity.
All right, give me just a minute. I will find it, because I know I've, 113. Oh, no, all I've got is the NOI.
You have the site plans?
It's the last page.
Sure, keep scrolling through it. The site plans were included in the NOI package. It wasn't separate.
So what came after was the orders. Oh, there it is. I guess I just wasn't patient enough.
There we go. Okay, so lot 6C. The one that was, the plan you were looking at is to the left of this one.
Okay,
So now this went down, going down Kenwood. So this is the next one, lot 6C. So it's the same wetland line. And we've made sure there's nothing within 15 feet. There's a grading in the septic design. We're up close to the street.
Peter, have you opened the hearings for these? I'm just not sure.
I just opened oh wait, that's a fair.
No, I don't think you did.
Yeah, I think I was trying to, and then I asked a question. So I'm gonna open the hearing for, the NOI for 113 Kenwood Drive. Thank you, Tamika. Keep us honest always.
No problem.
Okay, I do have one question. So that other NOI for
Lot 6
for lot
is
6,
it would be actually for lot 6B now.
that would be,
Because
okay.
that's what the location it is in.
And that's not changing in its scope of work?
No.
Okay,
It's a single family house and the septic and, yep,
yeah, same location, that's all the same as before?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So, here we have, on 6C, a single-family home with septic, looking for the well. Is there a well, or is it town?
No, it's pretty well there.
I'm having trouble seeing wells today, so,
Oh, the well is up, because you gotta be 100 feet away. You gotta scroll down on the page a little bit. Scroll down,
other
or
way?
up the other way, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, there it is.
Right there. There's the well.
Okay. So the well's within the 100 and some gradings in the 100.
Yeah,
Okay.
but nothing's within 15 feet of the wetland.
Right.
There's actually probably about, I would say 30 feet away with the well.
Is this whole area gonna be cleared? Is it already
No,
clear?
no, the erosion control line will be.
Oh, that's the
will be
limit
it.
of work, sure, okay.
It's a little, it's kind of just brushy right now, there's not many, they had, the land was cleared a few years ago. There's some brush in there, but there's not many trees.
Okay. Do we have questions from the commission? Or comments?
So I had an aha moment today, and Julian, I'm sorry, you might kill me. So I was looking at the ORW overlay, and as probably most of us know, that most of Rutland is in the ORW. And so according to the stormwater standards, even if it's 4 or fewer lots, are supposed to meet the stormwater management standards to the maximum extent practicable. And so this should really be going forward on kind of all of our projects, that there should be some sort of narrative of how they have tried to meet the stormwater standards to the most practicable attempt.
Okay, well, I guess I'd throw out one thing is that we're just barely touching the 100-foot buffer zone. So that would be number one, that we kept it as far out of that zone as we could. Like, what do you?
I mean, whether it's Coltech units, stone filter strips around the driveway, you know, just something to show that you have tried to mitigate, you know, for whether it's TSS removal, volume rates, that will be discharging to critical areas.
Okay. But there's only 2 lots there, so why would that trigger that?
Because, so it states the stormwater management standards shall apply to the maximum extent practical to the following. And one is housing development and redevelopment projects comprised of detached single-family dwellings on 4 or fewer lots that have a stormwater discharge that may potentially affect a critical area.
Okay. But that zone only goes to that 100-foot. But I would say if I was closer to if the house was in the 100-foot, but we just got a little bit of grading between the erosion control line and the 100-foot buffer. That's all that I'm in that jurisdiction. I feel that we have, just by keeping it out of that 100-foot buffer, except for the well, which is really a minuscule point, that's a very temporary disturbance, and when it's done, it's an 8-inch pipe. Stick it out of the ground. I gotta look into something, but I don't wanna get into
No, and that's, you know, it's more, I guess, something that the commission needs
just a narrative.
yeah.
So maybe what I'm even saying would be enough in the narrative to say we've
Correct.
tried to keep, okay,
Yeah.
I can do that. Stormwater narrative. All right.
And so these lots, it's just 4 now, so you're under the 5 lot threshold?
Yeah.
Okay.
But right now, we've just got, it's lot 6 and these 2. What's happening with the other one at this point is still in the air. That's not before you guys. It's only lot 6C and 6D. 6D has already got an order.
Yeah. One thing to also think about is just you cannot phase projects to make you exempt. So it's just something to think about.
Okay.
In the future, not necessarily specific to this.
Okay. So we'll do a stormwater narrative just to say why we've done everything we can as practical. And if I can add something, we'll see what we can do. I think we're far enough away that it won't be too difficult. Okay. I'll get that to you guys.
Jennifer, I do see your hand. Just give us a couple more minutes and I'll get right to you. Anything else, Melissa?
Nope.
Okay, anything else from the commission? Hearing nothing. Ms. McGinnis from the DCR.
Yeah, can you just show me a locus of exactly where we are on Kenwood?
Let me do.
Scroll, yeah, go to the top of the page. Keep going, there's a
There we
locus
go.
there.
Is that clear enough?
Do you know the map and parcel number for that, Julian?
Look at the title block on this, it's, map, let's see here. Map 32, block C, parcel 2.
Okay, thank you.
Julian, do you know if, how long ago was this split by the planning board?
Probably, maybe 3 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. So Melissa, I suspect that you're not gonna find them on maps yet.
No, it's gonna show up as lot 6. As the one that already has gone through the whole process. And part of, there's like 40 acres behind it that are all part of this property now.
Yeah, that's gonna be a giant, a giant segment there.
It's a big piece, so.
Are there questions or comments from the public? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue this hearing to June 1 so we can get the stormwater narrative. And then, but I will also ask, are there special conditions we should think about for this property so we can have them ready for the next meeting? Anyone? Anything? No? Okay, then our usual orders of conditions for next time, right, Tamika?
Nope, we don't have a DEP number yet.
Oh, then I'm really glad that I didn't close the hearing. Okay, so Julian, you can bug them for that, right?
I have already, I will continue.
Yeah.
No question about it.
That's so out of character for you, Julian.
I know.
Alrighty, so I'd like a motion to continue to June 1, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Clark.
Aye.
Gendelucci.
Aye.
Denza.
Aye.
Crane, aye. Okay, we're continued. Let me get myself out of this. So now I'm going to open a hearing for the NOI for 115 Kenwood Drive. So much like before, we're going to do this and say that's not right and scroll down much further and find the map we really want to find.
Yep.
Play zoomy games. Hopefully that's not too much. That is too much. Okay, go ahead, Julian.
It's a single-family home. That wetland is, again, the same wetland that was already shown in an NRAD and gone through the process with the other lots before this lot was created. The flags are out there, everything still looks pretty good. It's a relatively flat piece of property. There is a little bit of fill coming in just because of Title V for the septic. If you scroll up to the street, there's an existing, so you can see the street line. There's an existing culvert pipe that's dumping right where it shows, and there's actually a driveway. This driveway, it goes on an angle, but the same entrance is gonna be used, so that's already in place up at the site.
Okay.
So we try to utilize that to do as least disturbance as we can. Again, there are really no trees whatsoever on the property. They were all harvested probably 4 years ago, I think, maybe 3 years ago, when Tackler had it cut. So there's some brush, but there's no real trees. And same thing, we also need to get a DEP number, and I will also get a narrative for stormwater on this for you.
Marvelous. Julian, is this new grading here? I can't
That's
remember.
new grading there.
That is new, okay.
Yeah.
So you're going pretty, you're
No,
going right up
it's
to,
outside the 15, it's probably 20 feet.
yeah, I was gonna say
20,
that's,
22 feet.
it's a little outside the 15, fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Oh, and there's the well over here this time. I saw
Yeah.
about that. So there's nothing really interesting happening, it seems to me, up here, and there shouldn't be. Questions or comments from the commission?
Peter, I think I missed this on the previous one, 113 Kenwood, but can you just scroll up to the erosion control detail? I just wanted to check, Julian, do you guys, for your erosion control detail, did I see it was just a straw wattle?
I believe that's what we got. Do you want different?
I was just going to recommend, I think just considering the amount of grading going on, that straw wattle along with the silt fence is what I would recommend.
We could do that.
Okay.
If we can condition that, because that's totally fine. You don't want hay bales anymore, you just want wattles with silt fence.
That's right. Yep.
Okay.
Yes.
We could do
Okay.
that. You can definitely put that, that's not a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else from the commission? Anything from the public? Going once, going twice. So, you want this, Jared, do you also want the same, erosion controls? You said this, I think, I just want to make sure. Are we looking for a special condition for both lots? For the
I'd say
erosion
yeah.
control?
Yeah, ideally, Peter, that it would be silt fence and straw wattle for both lots, yes.
Okay.
I got it.
Any other special conditions? So again, I think we're just going to continue this hearing until June 1. And then hopefully again by then we'll have the orders ready, but we're going to be waiting for the DEP number, obviously. So that's the other piece that we're missing. So other than that, I'd like the motion to continue to June 1, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Clark.
Aye.
Gentilucci.
Aye.
Danza.
Aye.
Crane, aye. All right. Come here, little cursor. That takes care of that one. So now I'm going to open a hearing for the notice of intent for Turkey Hill Road, Lot 5.
Nope, that was my error. I'm sorry, that should have said lot 6.
Uh-oh. So is this the correct plan? Just labeled for Lot 5 instead of, yeah, this still says Lot 5.
Maybe I wasn't wrong.
No, I believe you're
Tell
correct.
us.
There you go.
Oh, I am right. Okay, never mind then.
You're
I just
correct.
threw myself into the bus.
Awesome, thank you. So, yeah, that hearing's open. Julian.
Okay. It's it's off of Turkey Hill Road. It's a single-family home, septic, well, driveway. We're able to, as you can see, we're the 15-foot, no disturb, we're well far enough away from that. This is actually the driveway, when we go out there, is close, very close to the driveway that Meagher's used to have going to the back of their property, off of Turkey Hill Road. You can, it's right near the well. The well is, there's a line, a dashed line in the bottom right corner, right where it says top of the iron, yeah, right in there. That's actually a gravel driveway that exists right now.
Oh.
So we're gonna have the entrance come in on that same spot.
Mm-hmm.
And, the septic was done where it's shown, and again, we've got the erosion control, however you want the wattles and silt fence. I think I might have just shown wattles again, but, we can fix that also. Yeah.
Okay. That's Turkey Hill right there. Okay. Questions from the commission?
On this one, I have the same comments as well. I think this one, though, I'm more focused on how many lots this is actually going to be. Because if it's 5 or more, even though they're A&R lots, they do count as a housing development, and 5 or more lots required to meet the stormwater standard.
Well, that piece was cut into, there's probably 10 lots on that one side. The other two before me that I'm not doing are on the same tract of property.
Okay, so
And
how?
those will also require it.
So on I think on the NOI, it was checked off that this did not need to meet the requirements of the stormwater standard?
There was a single-family home, but that's, I'm only working on this one right now, so that's, however you guys want me to do this, we'll do it.
I mean, I think we do need to look at it at some point as a whole development, because it does need to meet standards. I mean, I totally understand that they're done individually, but there needs to be some, whether you meet the standards lot by lot, or you try and work with the other engineers to meet it as a whole, because it's also, I think these are tributary to the ORW. So the small section is outside of the ORW, but it's tributary, so it still considers it a critical area.
Okay, so this one, we've got to do the same on the other, but actually this one we have to do the stormwater management full-fledged requirements. Because there was actually, I think on this side there's 12 lots. There's lots 1 through 12 on that side, and then across the street there's another 4 lots. So.
Julian, would there be NOIs on every one of these properties?
So stormwater needs to be done, even though I'm only working on this one lot out of the 5. So that's a little confusing on the paperwork, because I was hired by this one person to do this, which is what they're gonna own versus what the law says. So I will look into the stormwater individually on this one and come up with some way to mitigate the best practical way we can fit stormwater to prevent any issues downstream. Is that what we're looking for?
Yeah, I think just double checking, maybe it's worth a call into DEP about the differences, if this needs to meet all of the standards, if it's just to the extent practicable. Because I think, unfortunately, like to your point, that it's kind of being done by different engineers, but it's more than 5 lots, so it does trigger that. So it's a tricky situation.
Jennifer has her hand raised, so I'm going to let her cut in right now. Jen?
Same thing, can we see a locus and get the map and parcel, please?
So there's the locus. Here, let me zoom in a little bit right there.
Map and parcel is, give me 1 second.
Is this Irish right here?
It's map 34, block B, parcel 3.
It's still, it's the same area as the first 2, Peter.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And my only other thing is there's a huge amount of Japanese knotweed along the roadway. So some sort of maybe ongoing or invasive management plan even during construction, because I think once you start disturbing soil, if that's not disposed of properly, it'll just take over the whole area.
So Melissa, what extra work needs to be done when it's more than four more lots, for developments, for whatever you want to call them?
So for housing developments with with 5 or more, they have to meet the stormwater standards. If it's 4 and under, but they're in an ORW or tributary to an ORW, which these are, then they need to meet the maximum extent practicable to the stormwater standards.
Okay.
Which pretty much all of Rutland is an ORW, unfortunately. And
Right.
just so this little corner of town where these are not mapped ORW, but tributaries to ORW are then considered ORW, which
Right.
pretty much encompasses the rest of the town.
Well, this one, just so you know, on Turkey Hill Road, this whole area goes away from the DCR ORW. It's downstream, everything sheds away.
Okay.
Turkey, Irish Lane is kind of the cutoff. Everything from here towards Pat's and Spencer is not.
Oh, I
watershed.
thought there was something that connected near underneath where Emerald is to that section over there.
I don't think so.
Okay. I could be wrong.
I don't think so on this. I think we're on the tail end, tipping the opposite direction. This is like the only part in Rutland
Yeah.
that I don't have to really deal with, or I haven't had to deal with, the ORW situation. So, but we'll, I will look into the stormwater standards and we'll get you what you need. That's, it's all being relative to all these projects lately.
So at what point would they need to generate a full-blown SWIP?
When
I would
it's
say this
a little more, yeah. And that's-
requires a SWIP.
Okay. The
And
project
that's
as a
why
whole,
it's so
sure.
tricky, because they've kind of separated them out into different people and things like that. So
Yeah.
instead of like a subdivision where it's one comprehensive one, then turns kind of individually, which just makes it a lot more cumbersome on the engineer as well.
Right.
Technically, the SWIP is required after 1 acre of disturbance, and this is under 1 acre, so it's a gray area. So it's however you guys want to condition this. I will look into the stormwater and see how we can help with the concerns, and I'll have that for the next meeting.
Julian, how many lots along this strip that he's doing are gonna need NOIs? I don't remember.
The one that I know of, the one to the left of this one,
Mhm.
there's probably gonna be, probably 5 to 6 of them.
Okay.
And of course, it depends on where the people wanna put the house. There's a couple of big lots that they might be far enough, there might be wetlands on the property, but they're far enough away that there's like 3 5-acre lots.
Yeah,
That's
I
part
think
of it.
I've even approved a couple of them in viewpoint.
So, but right now, this is the only one I'm dealing with.
So Melissa, if they need it for the entirety of the project, ugh.
Yeah, that's why it's difficult. You know, if there's something simple that we could look at just lot by lot, but sometimes that's worse because you're looking at a smaller space versus looking at a storm management over, you know, many more lots.
Right.
So I think, you know, we can probably come to a common ground. You know, Julian can demonstrate kind of as much as he can do, even though they're individually. So there's definitely, I think, some interpretation that the commission can work with. It's just ensuring that, okay, this is our process moving forward for, you know, developments that are like this.
Right. So my question to you, which is a little outside the scope of this hearing, but I'm going to ask it anyway. what should I do in viewpoint for any other lots that are part of this project that don't require NOIs?
I might need to think on that.
Okay. Think about it, we'll talk about it some other day.
Okay.
Okay. Other questions or comments on this property from anyone, commission or public? DEP number?
No.
No, okay. And we're waiting for the stormwater stuff anyway, so we're definitely gonna continue this to June 1. Any special orders other than the wattle and silt fence?
Something about the knotweed.
Oh, right.
Melissa, what's it called again? Japanese knotweed? Is that what you said?
Yes, it's invasive Japanese knotweed.
Thank you.
And so let me guess, that's invasive and it takes over, right?
Yeah, it loves disturbed soils, so that area is pretty disturbed just from the previous uses. So I think if they don't bag it up and take it away, it'll just trimming it and spreading it is how it got there in the first place, even from the town, just taking it somewhere down the road.
So what, actually, I'm just curious on what should be done. They chop it down and,
So it actually might work out in your favor. Oh my gosh, your favor, because the septic is going close to the road where a lot of it is. So the easiest way to do it is really dig it out, and it can go down 5-6 feet. So I think if you guys are just looking at it when you're excavating for the septic and looking for those root mats, and as long as you don't pile it off to the side and keep it there, as long as you take it
Yeah, you have to
off-site.
remove it from the site.
but, now you say that, off-site, where do they bring it? I don't know, what do we do with it?
Yeah.
If you bury it deep, does it die, or does it just
No.
grow more?
It doesn't die. It's the best way is really to put it in a bag and let it bake in the sun, like in a big black bag. But this is probably too much of it. So I think if you laid it out, it also depends on the time of year you do it. Do you know when they're hoping to?
I don't know what the schedule is on construction, but if they chop it down, that doesn't kill it because the roots are there.
Yeah. So if they
Can
can
they
get
put
it
some type of Roundup on it? Or is that worse?
it doesn't really help that much.
So kill everything else.
It's the best ways I've found are injecting them into the stem. So cutting them before they flower and literally one by one injecting them. But that takes a couple seasons. So if they do it in the spring before it flowers, just, cutting the tops and kind of letting it bake out on a tarp and then kind of throwing it away, putting it in bags or whatever. I think as long as it doesn't flower, you can burn it, but let me double check on that one. I know sometimes it's not
Okay,
good.
just give us some suggestions so I can tell them what they're gonna have to do with it. That's fine. Okay. Where did that come from? How did it get here?
Crappy
Was
people.
it from the 40s or 50s?
I don't know if it just started off as one of those ornamental plants, but now it's, it's wonderful roadside invasive that when the towns come through just with their little mower chopper, it just spreads everywhere. And anywhere that's disturbed or not disturbed even, it will thrive and take over.
Okay.
So Melissa, once you find out the recommendation, why don't you write the special order and send that to Tamika?
Yeah, and if I get it, I'll also just send some stuff to Tamika to forward to you.
Yes.
All right.
Anything else on this submission? I'm sorry, on this hearing? Hearing nothing, I'd like the motion to continue to June 1, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, different order. Danza,
Aye.
Gendelucci,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Crane, aye. All right. I believe
Thank
that
you.
you are very welcome, Julian. I
I'll
think,
see you on Zoom next time. Then it's face to face again. That's awesome.
yeah,
All right.
we'll see you soon,
All right.
one way or another. All right. So let's go through these one at a time. In fact, I see Mr. Lang here, which is great. So let's talk about 277 Pommogussett Road. So this came up because I'm doing Viewpoint. Viewpoint is our online computer-based permitting system, and if there's a building permit, I get to look at the plans and sign off on them. This one, I noticed that we do not have an NOI, but the proposed work area is immediately adjacent to this here isolated land subject to flooding, which is jurisdictional. So, Mr. Lang, hey, if you have something to say, please step right in.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, good. Yeah, so I guess that spot was dug out years ago. They pulled gravel out of this site. So that's what formed that area over there. So it's kind of low. So I can't, as far as flooding, I can't imagine. I think we'd be in a lot of trouble if the water came up that high.
Well, your wetlands guy called it right here.
Yeah.
So, this is the property line right here, right? Just so I'm
Yes.
reading the plot correctly, okay. This is, there, it looks like you're grading right up to this.
Yes.
Okay, so, Melissa, correct me, or Jared, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we require an NOI for this, don't we?
I think so, yes, because isolated land subject to flooding is jurisdictional and has a 100-foot buffer.
So, any work being done within 100 feet of this wetland, we need to understand and approve, basically.
Okay.
And that's what the NOI, the Notice of Intent process is all about, so you can tell us what your plan is and how you're gonna protect the wetland and how, and then we'll place orders of condition saying, yes, you're allowed to do this, but you need to do these things to make sure you protect the wetland.
Okay.
And we have to hold a public hearing, which has to be posted, excuse me, is that 1 week in advance, Tamika, is that correct?
It has to be 5 days in advance, but
5 days.
I essentially need to know, like I'd have to have everything ready to go by a Friday and a half before the meeting to meet their deadline requirements for the TNG. So essentially, I have to get it to them by a Friday for them to post it the following Wednesday, which is the 5 days prior to the hearing. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Or no? So essentially, if we were going to get this published for the June 1st meeting, I would have to have everything before this Friday in order to publish it for next week. Otherwise, we would do it for the hearing for June 15th.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So is this the note? Is this a form that has to get filled out?
Yes, there's an online, you can do it all online, I believe, with EDEP. I don't remember who did the, I'm just trying to see who did the, land planning, okay.
Yeah, probably. I've been using Mark Elbach Jr. so I could reach out to him.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, Steve, definitely reach out to Mark, because he does this all the time, and he
Yeah,
helps
he's
people with
pretty
the
good.
butter, yeah, he'll help you with the abutter notices and filling out the form, the checks, all of that stuff.
Okay,
yeah, he's well familiar with our process.
okay. All right,
So again, if you can get it to us by Friday, we can have the hearing June 1. We'll just treat this meeting that we have right now as a submission. And but if that timeline doesn't work, we'll hold it the following meeting on the 15th. And again, Mark knows all about that stuff too.
okay, I'll reach out to him tonight.
Okay. Do you have any other questions for us?
No, I think we're good. You got my paperwork from DCR as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Having reached out to them and gotten that variance was fantastic for you because it solved so many of your problems. And
Oh, good.
if wetlands and water supply were exactly the same, you'd be set already. But wetlands are one thing done by Concom, and water supply is something else done by DCR.
Okay. All right, so that's good, so we're ahead of the game.
For that one, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Anybody on the commission or anyone else have other questions?
Peter, this is Jared. I just had one other question, or maybe it's a suggestion. Just, I don't know if any calculations have been done that confirms that area is isolated land subject to flooding. So typically, there'd be a few things that would happen to confirm that. One is the wetland scientists would physically define the limits of that potential resource area, and then calculations would be done to confirm if it actually qualifies. I would just suggest that those calculations also be submitted to us just to confirm that it is in fact isolated land subject to flooding, because if it doesn't qualify, then it would only be isolated vegetated wetlands, and isolated vegetated wetlands are not jurisdictional. So there is a distinction between the two, and there is typically a set of calculations that are prepared and submitted to the commission that would verify for us that it does actually qualify as isolated land subject to flooding.
Okay.
And maybe those have been done already. On the plan, it does label them as isolated land subject to flooding, so that analysis might have already been done. I'm guessing it has. But I would just suggest checking on that, because just again, if it doesn't technically qualify, then we would not have jurisdiction and you would not have to submit an NOI. So just want to make sure that there is jurisdiction here.
Okay. All right, I'll talk to Mark and then see what his thoughts are and see if we can get anything done this week. If not, then we'll have to do it the following meeting.
Yep.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
All
Anyone
right,
else?
thanks.
Thank you very much. Okay. Moving on. Tree removal on 43A22. I didn't see anything on the drive for this, Tamika.
Nope, I did receive an email from Chris Capone with the Forestry Division. There has not been a forest cutting plan taken out on this. I did reach out to Kim Roth twice. I didn't hear back from her. I did send a certified letter to the property owners requesting their attendance at this meeting, and I did not receive a green card back.
Uh-huh, okay. Oh, you didn't receive a green card, so they haven't picked up their mail.
Nope, it was sent, yeah, it was sent directly to the home. It's not a PO box. But yeah, I actually just went up to double check the mail today and it never came.
Alrighty.
Would
Then,
we want to send just a regular letter referencing our certified letter? See if that works?
they may be avoiding everything that's certified, that's possible.
Yeah, I know if I don't get the certified back, usually I send just a snail mail, and, sometimes that triggers something and sometimes it doesn't.
Happy to do that if you guys would like me to. I can certainly follow up with the regular snail mail one.
Sure, let's just send a regular letter.
Okay.
Okay, then we'll just carry this item forward. Moving on, unless there's something else. Woodside Ave. Jared and I visited Woodside Ave. We've seen a few things. Jared, why don't you give us a report, please?
Sure. So we walked on this would be if I get my bearings right, this would be the north side of Woodside Ave. And this was the area that Melissa, you and I walked, I believe it was mid-September last year, and we had seen some breaches in the erosion control along that north edge. And we found some sediment that had migrated towards and appeared to be into the wetlands. So we walked that area last Saturday, last Friday morning. It was Peter, myself, I think Peter was Alan from
Alan
DCR,
Ranselot
correct?
was there, yes.
And Tom.
Tom Larson, who's the project leader.
Tom Larson. Right. So we walked that area down there. They had already done a lot of cleanup back there. A lot of the sediment has been removed. There were a few areas here and there that was very, very thin layers of sediment left. I think at this point it's not worth cleaning up those additional areas. It's a very thin layer. A lot of vegetation you can see is starting to grow through it already. I think any additional cleanup at this point would do more harm than good. So in my mind, what they've done, what they've cleaned up, I think they've done a good job. Nature should take over at this point. I don't see anything else that needs to be done at this point. And they did reinforce the erosion control barriers on that edge that have been compromised. So those are now reset in good shape, and hopefully no more breaches in the future.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's right back here, right?
Yes, that's about right. Yep.
Is it? Oh wait, or
No, isn't it? No, there's that short little straight one from the opposite side of that.
it's this one? Yeah, that's Oakley.
Yeah,
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So it's literally right back here that's still painting.
Yes, that's right.
Had they stabilized those back slopes yet?
On
Stabilized
the
the
back
what?
edges of those properties,
Yeah.
I think those were pretty stable.
They
A lot of
were.
it was just wood chips from the clearing that had been done to create those lots. Yeah, I think, and there was some riprap in place as well in a few locations.
Okay. Yeah, I apologize, I couldn't make it. I got stuck on a work call that went way too long.
I know how those go, yes. So, in general, I agree with everything that Jared just said. Yeah, there was a little left, but removing anything that's up would cause more harm than good because the plants are taking off. They're all growing through it all. So I didn't see any reason to hold this issue open any longer. I think.
That's good to hear.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I said that's good to hear.
Yeah, and I'll also say, Alan was of the exact same opinion. Everybody who was there agreed to the same thing, that there was no more work left to do. It's been sufficiently cleaned out. Doing more is going to do more harm than damage, more damage than good, and so let's consider the issue closed. Which also goes along with Chris Lucas's assessment as well. So I think we've got four people who have an vested interest in it being right and who all agree that there's no more to do. But speaking of more to do, let's talk a little bit about Oakley Circle and, the grand horseshoe shaped swale or river sometimes, and the issues that's been causing and what has been proposed to fix it. So there is, this is, I didn't put the topo layers up, but this is all a very steep hill. And for water control, for stormwater control, they added a swale back to these properties that I'm pointing to back here, we've spent, we over time have spent a fair number of time right here at number 4, where this is a house that's way back here, and the swell comes out behind the house, and then all the water runs down here and causes problems with these downhill properties. And we didn't note a particular problem on this side, other than it looks like there's a makeshift, makeshift might be too, is not a good description. There is another swale with riprap down on one of these 2 properties that comes down the hill. I take it back, it's these 2. Yeah, it's gotta be coming down this one, and it comes off in a funny angle. It didn't look quite natural to me, and I'm not sure that it's gonna do everything they think, but we'd have to see it with water running to know for sure. So, questions?
Is there like a catch basin at the end of it?
Why? I'm glad you asked that question. No!
Okay.
And that's so what there is there is a swale with riprap down the side of one, probably this property, I think, or this, it's right over here, but the water's not really running down there, it's really running down here. And so they're putting in, what did he say, Jared, a 4-inch pipe?
They're doing a couple of things. They're going to put in a drop inlet structure.
Yeah.
At the base of that.
At the toe of the hill here, basically.
Yeah. There's I guess we'll call it a riprap swale. It's really just the riprap edge of that steep slope. And at the base of it, they're going to install a drop inlet structure and then pipe that to the drainage system in the roadway with a 12-inch pipe. And then in addition to that, I forget how many houses to the left, at least the next 2, I believe.
I think
they were gonna.
Yeah,
I think it's at least the next couple. They were gonna, because they've had some issues with groundwater seepage in their backyards and I think just wet conditions back there. So Tom indicated they were going to install what to me sounded like basically an underdrain pipe in their backyards. And that would be a smaller pipe, 4-inch perf pipe, and that'll help to pick up that water and that groundwater that's kind of seeping into their backyards over there.
Right, so hopefully it'll drain it faster and they won't have skating rinks. Okay, exactly. Unintentional skating rinks. Let's see, oh gosh, which engineer did they reference, Jared?
Quinn Engineering?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Quinn Engineering.
They mentioned Quinn, but why can't I think of his name? Oh well.
Carl.
Yeah.
Carl Quinn.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, exactly. That's right, Carl. He's been through it, and he's satisfied. And in fact, he's the one who suggested the drop inlet, rather than doing some of the things they were thinking about doing instead. So this is how Carl gave his okay, and that means planning board is in fact involved with all this, which is good to know. And stuff. So maybe there's a solution coming at us. One of the questions I asked was, will we expect to see a new SWIP? And the answer is no, because all this water is planned for, it was just planned to be sheet flow instead of collected in a pipe. So because the water had all been accounted for, they do not believe they need to submit a new SWIP. Questions or comments?
So are they finishing that, what'd you call it, a horseshoe up top? Are they stabilizing that further then?
Yeah, Jared, what did he say about that? Because we did ask.
We did. I believe Tom said they are going to stabilize it, although I think it was not with riprap. I think they're going to stabilize it with some vegetation, maybe seed it, I think is what he said.
Yeah, that sounds
Okay.
right.
Which would make sense, you know, I think it's just getting there. It might need to be regraded a little bit before they put the seed down, because it's pretty bumpy out there.
Yeah, it's very bumpy, and it's actually undercutting the tree roots a little too much for my taste.
Yeah, that was a big issue, because that was my biggest concern, if it just keeps cutting and gullying out, you know, what that bank is gonna look like in a couple of years.
Yep. All right, and that was our day at Bryce Lemon. Other questions or comments? Hearing nothing. I need a motion to add for discussion the DCR concerns at 165 Cannon Road.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call. Gentilucci,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Danza,
Aye.
Crane, aye. All right, so now let's talk about the DCR concerns, which I imagine is the big reason Jen is here.
I just missed you.
So let's start here, Tamika, because Jen sent us a copy of this mail that I'm going to go back to in a second. Giving us some homework we need to do, which is fine. We need to go look and see if it's a wetland. But it is Zone A, so there are some things that need to be dealt with either way. Oh. See, I hadn't read this in advance, and that's how I didn't know they don't like site visits because it's COVID. Well, did the pictures come out, Tamika? Oh, there they are. So it's right off Central Tree. Oh, yeah. Yep. Let me just go to that. Oh, that's the only picture. Okay. So is the wetland in Rutland?
I
Is that
believe
this?
it's in both towns. It's in
Yeah.
Holden and in Rutland.
Yeah.
The stream goes a little bit into Rutland, the alleged stream. We haven't been able to go out there to confirm. They won't let us on the property because of COVID. But we have photos that it appears to be a wetland in the photos.
Mm-hmm.
Without going on site, I don't want to say for sure. And really the big issue is that they're claiming an agricultural exemption, and there are agricultural exemptions in the Wetland Protection Act, but there is no exemption from the drinking water. So they can't have cows in streams to a tributary to a drinking water source.
Right.
So I think the first step is for us to get out there and, you know, confirm, is there a stream? It's been mapped as a stream, but, you know, maps change. And then is there an associated wetland? Based on aerial and the I think it might be, just based on the mowing around this area.
Right.
But, you know, I'm not going to say until I actually see it. So that's where we kind of stand right now with the project.
Well, something, Jen, that you may not be aware of is 18 months ago, maybe, we got a notice from the Holden Concom about, I'm pretty sure, this property.
Okay.
And they had an issue with what was going on. I do not at this instant recall the details, but
Peter,
Joe
I
and
think that was actually 91 Central Tree Road, which abuts this property, and I believe it had to do with the horses drinking from the wetland. in the area, from what I understand, because the actual enforcement order was placed for 91 Central Tree Road.
Oh, interesting. By
Yeah.
who?
I don't think I know there's been some neighbor stuff back and forth, but I don't think I knew about that enforcement order.
Yeah, the town of Holden did it. I want to say, yeah, Peter's probably right, maybe like 18 months ago. I could try to find it in our files if we needed to, but if you reached out to their conservation agent, I'm sure they'd have a record of that.
Okay, yeah, we sent the same letter and same email to them, that we sent to you.
Mm-hmm. So I do remember Joe and I went and visited them at one of their meetings and asked them basically to just keep apprised about anything we need to know about, and we haven't, and to my knowledge, we have not heard anything since then.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, we're gonna keep pursuing it now that the governor's COVID restrictions are gonna get lifted in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully we can get this resolved.
Right. Yeah, the whole COVID thing is still a little complicated even after June 15th, but that it becomes a Board of Health thing and not a governor's order thing.
Yeah,
So yeah, there are some good questions about what to do with this, but the first thing, I mean, I did briefly read your letter, and I don't disagree with anything that I read here, which I know shocks you terribly.
we spent a long time on that letter, and we read a lot of regulations. We talked to a lot of people on the phone. Yeah, we reached out to the Department of Ag. We reached out to a lot of stakeholders just to make sure that we were correct.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I know there are some exemptions under the Wetland Protection Act, but I don't even think any of those exemptions would apply specifically to this situation.
Right.
But,
Yeah, and there are some things going on. So technically this, so is, right, so the wetland crosses the town border. And we have not heard, so Tamika, I think we should write a letter to Holden Concom and their agent specifically. But I'm not sure what I want to ask besides, can we set this up so we can, well, if they, no, but Holden did an enforcement against 191 Central Tree.
91 Central.
91, excuse me.
yeah, maybe we'll look into that. I think until we get out there and confirm that there is a stream
Right.
and there is a wetland, I don't want to. I mean, again, based on maps and aerials and everything else, but maps and aerials can be deceiving or wrong. I think we need to get out there at some point. I think it was more we want to keep the commissions in the loop.
Right. Right, and so my map's gonna end. So, wait a minute, this doesn't show. I did ask for wetlands, but I guess it doesn't give streams.
Yeah, I don't know how many associated wetlands. So the stream is mapped on our 1992 map, which is based on when the Watershed Protection Act was written. So that's always the map we go by. So if a new stream appears after that, we don't regulate it.
Right.
So that's where, again, could something have changed? But you almost can kind of see sort of a channel going on.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be interesting. Hopefully, I think Alan's still working on trying to get out there with them. Because their house is in Holden, but their property obviously goes into.
Yeah,
Rutland.
they're back here, that's this whole,
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe, I think we want to get Holden involved. I think we want to ask for their support and their assistance in gaining access to the property. But I'm not sure what else we can ask them to do right now. So what do we think about that, guys? Ladies and gents, folks.
So it's just sending a letter to the holding Concom?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, unless, Jen, it makes any difference if, you have some more support from the Concom of us sending a letter as well.
Sometimes you guys have a little more jurisdiction on getting onto property. But again, I'm hoping with the lightning of the governor with you don't need to wear a mask outside kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they don't want us on their property because of COVID, but I don't understand how us on their property is giving them COVID, So that they don't have to be present for the sidewalk if they didn't want to be. The photo, like I said, the photos that we saw, it did look like it could be a wetland, but again, it's deceiving.
Right.
It might be worth sending a letter just via snail mail saying we've been notified of a use, within a possible wetland. Please contact us to schedule a site inspection.
That might be a good way to go.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You got it, I can do that.
I think the site inspection is the first step. Let's see if there is a stream and there is a wetland. There is a big steep valley in the middle of it, so like I said, it appears that it probably is, but again, we haven't been able to get on the property to really see, and
Right.
it's pretty forested in the front of the lot, so you can't really see in. We just don't really see a reason why, if it is a wetland, that the cows seem to be over there grazing when they have all the fields around them to graze in.
Right. Yep. Okay, so we'll send those 2 letters off, and hopefully we'll hear back.
Yeah.
And even, if Holden wants to have a joint meeting, fine with, we can figure that out.
So, Tamika, if you can find that enforcement, we can also reach out to Holden too, since they issued it, and see what their enforcement said. That would be great.
Right.
Yeah, because I think the only copy I would have, that was way back before Zoom, so I'm sure it was only a paper copy. And I'm sure I saved it in our file, so I can dig it out, but you might be able to get it faster if you just emailed their agent. Yeah,
I'll get on that tomorrow.
I'm sure they'd have that.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Anything else on this topic? So is the red the zone A? Or orange, or whatever you want to call this color? I wasn't sure how to, oh, I see. No, that's a Z. That's a C, excuse me. I admit I'm a blind old man and I can't tell what is zone A on this picture, Jen?
I know it's hard to tell that it's blue, but that's the zone A.
This whole thing right here?
I think so.
Yeah, that's right, Peter.
And all of this down here, okay.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it on Oliver, if that matches up.
Great.
It took me a bit too.
Okay. So we'll aid you we'll give you any support we can. We will also try and gain access to the property. And should they grant us access, we will let you and Alan know so we can, we will coordinate for a site visit. And Holden also if they're interested. Is there any other way we can help you, Jen? She's very silent.
Peter, I have a question.
I muted myself, sorry. I said, we just wanted to make sure you were aware of what we were working on.
No, I appreciate that, thank you, and again, we'll support you any way we can. Jared, what's your question?
Yeah, I'm personally not, I'm looking it up now, I'm not familiar with the agricultural exemptions in the Wetlands Protection Act. I was just curious if anybody else here on the commission was, and I was trying to find, I'm digging through 10 CMR 10 right now. I just wasn't sure if anybody else was familiar with that.
You know, I know that use is directly related to their agricultural uses in the buffer zone, at least, are typically exempt. I'm not sure about direct BVW impact, though. I can't remember off the top of my head. But they also have to demonstrate, you know, specific requirements to meet the agricultural exemption. Like they have to have like their farm plan on file. I think they have to have like a certain amount of revenue in the last 2 or so years, which shouldn't be hard to demonstrate. But it does have, you know, it doesn't give them free reign essentially. And if it's causing an impact, I think then the exemption does not apply.
The biggest is the drinking water standard, because there is no exemption from drinking water to a tributary.
Right.
That's the biggest one, and yeah, you're right. It's basically like if you have a farm pond and you're using that farm pond for water to do your 200 head of cow, as long as you're taking the best management practices. There's a book called Farming in Massachusetts, and it kind of says, okay, you know, this Regulation of Wetland Protection Act exempts you from like sod farming in a flood zone, let's say, but it doesn't allow you to have free range to just have, you know, your cattle or dig up a wetland or something like that. It's more specific. We don't even look at we don't concern ourselves with revenue. Like it could be a hobby farmist or just like, you know, civilian farming. We just look at it as it's a tributary to drinking water, so you can't have animals grazing in it. So
Right.
So it's a little bit different.
Alrighty. Anything else on 165 Cannon?
Peter, not specific to 165 Cannon Road, but just while we have Jen here, I just wanted to know, they did submit an RDA this afternoon for, I believe it's a footbridge down at the prison camp road. Because I've received in enough time, I'm gonna get the notice posted for our next meeting on June 1st.
Oh, okay.
So just a heads up on that.
I'm going to be the applicant that night. So. Yeah, it's just, without going into a discussion, it's just a pedestrian footbridge over an intermittent tributary that's on an existing trail. That's what we're looking to do.
Okay.
And we talked about it. So,
Sounds pretty straightforward.
yeah.
I look forward to the filing.
Oh, and that's right. Jen wasn't sure if you guys would want to do a site walk between now and then, so that's also why I wanted to bring it up to you guys.
Jared, you want to add that to Saturday?
Sure, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah. And where's the paperwork, Tamika?
I have it in an email and I can forward it to you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, bring your walking shoes. It's quite a walk. Just warning you.
That's fair. Thank you.
What time about would you guys want to go out to do that?
Well, the two that we've got starting at 10 will be, well, at first blush, it's not going to take a tremendous amount of time for that one. Call it 11 o'clock.
Okay.
That should
And
give us
is-
enough time to get over there after, well, that'll at least give us enough time to get, to get to the property.
Yeah, I'll send Tamika a map on where to meet, because the prison camp, part of, it's between Prison Camp Road and Long Meadow.
Okay,
So I'll send you guys somewhere where we can meet, and I'll just wait for you there. It doesn't matter if you're late. It's a nice Saturday.
okay.
So, yeah, I'll do that. I'll send you guys something, because I have to figure out what gates are open too, for you guys to be able to get in, so.
Oh yeah, we've had discussions about that.
Yeah, okay, great. I think mostly everything's open right now, but, I haven't been out there in a week, so.
All right,
All right, great.
thank you, Jen.
Yep.
Let me just add, comma, prison camp. To my reminder, which I'm not sure I set it up correctly. Except for this. Oh, perfect. All right, now it's back in my agenda. So Saturday morning, here we go. Do we have any other discussions before we talk about the joys of bylaws and regulations?
Peter, I just wanted to add, when I checked the mail today, we had a letter from National Grid. I did upload it to
Yes.
the Google Drive. Just information.
I closed it.
correspondence for you
Oh my
guys.
gosh, I know I had it open. Here, let me open it up again. Which is, and it's really fundamentally just saying they're going to do vegetation management. Does this one say exactly where it's going to be? Excuse me.
There's 2 pages. I can't remember if it specifically said the location. I just kind of glanced through
By
it
the
briefly.
vendor.
I think it just sends you to their online maps if you want to look. From what I remember of mine, yeah. It's basically just making sure that there are no other wellheads in the area that have come up recently that they haven't mapped, because they'll be doing their vegetation clearing.
Oh, it's an image. I can't treat it like text. Oh well. That means cutting and pasting. That means I have to type that whole silly URL. So, anyone who's willing to type that in, and I'm not going to do it now, but I'll do it later. Yeah. So I don't know the exact locations, but we, I would bet this is these are the power lines that run across Campbell Street, run up into Princeton, and the other direction, I don't remember exactly where they end up. But I'll bet that's where this is. We'll look it up, and anyone else is interested, please feel free to follow the URL. Okay? Anything else before we get to bylaws? Did anybody submit anything to Tamika?
Melissa gets the gold star. She submitted it, and I uploaded it to the drive under under the bylaw folder.
Oh, that's why it's in the, oh, I'm in the wrong darn place then.
I figured it was better to stick it in there than this meeting, just so it's an easy reference if we need to go back to it.
You're exactly correct. There we go. Oh, that's right. So these are the links that to me that Melissa had sent before.
There's links, but there should also be a document that she sent.
Yes, I'm trying to open up
Oh,
that
okay,
document.
okay, I wasn't sure if it really was there.
Let me zoom in even a little more. Okay. Actual bylaw should outline the purpose, jurisdiction, definitions, exemptions applicable, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, yes. We actually won't need severability, believe it or not. Because by the time this passes, we'll have new bylaws that have as an introduction that any bylaw, regulation, or rule is severable if found unconstitutional by a court of competent jurisdiction. So I'm just saying that's a section that we don't need to have. I don't disagree with the other things that are here. So let's start talking about some of these details. So let's start with, what do we want our buffer size to be? I mean, we have today a 15, which I think is insufficient, but I'm not sure I want to go all the way to 100, so I'm willing to talk about numbers anywhere in between. I'm sorry, Jared, I think I cut you off.
No, that's okay, Peter. I'm sorry. I was just going to say that, and I think a 25-foot no disturbance buffer is appropriate. And in addition to the no disturbance buffer, I wanted to throw out the idea of also having some sort of no structure buffer, and that could be a number of different things. It could be a minimum distance from wetlands to a house or a building. I know some towns and cities have no structure buffers where literally no houses, no buildings, no pavement, basically no hardscape at all is allowed within a certain number of feet of a resource area. So I wanted to mention that one as well, if that's possibly something else we would think about or consider.
Well, that's an interesting idea. What does the commission think about that? Well, let's split these up. Let's start with the question I asked, which is, what's the right size of the buffer? And then we'll go into extending control to other different distances from the wetland for different land things, whether it be structure or hardscape or whatever. So 25, 35?
25 is good, Peter.
We hear from Skip is a 25, okay?
I agree, and I think it's pretty standard as the, minimum amount. So it's not reaching, I think, by any means, considering looking at other town bylaws.
Okay, so if we set that for 25, although we're calling this a no-touch zone, is it really a no-touch zone? That is to say, we won't allow anything, or is there a way to condition specific applications?
You can always, at any point, and in the bylaw, also put a section on waivers. So, at any application, they can request a waiver, and it's up to the commission if they want to issue that waiver for work within that 25 foot.
Yeah, that sounds good to me, Peter.
I like that approach too.
I don't have a problem with it, but my question is, what happens if, And I've started the habit of not asking if and instead ask when. So what happens when someone requests a waiver, but Concom is unwilling to grant the waiver?
Then it's not approved under the bylaw because it doesn't meet the regulations,
Okay.
and they can appeal it to court.
Well, that was the question. What's the appeal process? So it's only going to, I assume, Superior.
Correct, yeah. The one downside of having a bylaw is it no longer gets appealed to DEP. It goes right to Superior Court.
Right. Oh, that's a very interesting point. I hadn't thought about that. Would that apply to all hearings, NOIs, whatever?
Yes.
Okay. Good to know. In fact, I'm quite sure I did not realize that was a fascinating implication. Okay, so let's now explore some of these areas that Jared brought up, which is, so we have a 25-foot no-touch. Great. Should there be a restriction for other hardscapes or structures?
I like the idea that I'm trying to think of, what's been in front of us recently, and there's a lot of circumstances where that wouldn't be possible because we've had a lot of close projects.
Mm-hmm.
But it might be the incentive to make it work, or sometimes creating those lots are creating a unnecessary hardship, which is one other approach. If you do deny a project for newer lots that have work, if we have whether it's a 50-foot no structure, 30 or something, that the creation of those lots after the enactment of this bylaw and regulations would be an active hardship by the owner.
Right. So I guess I want to split the question up into two. No, maybe I don't. What does the commission feel about hardscapes versus structures? Should we treat them the same? Should we treat them differently?
I think we should treat them the same.
I agree.
Me too.
It's impervious.
Yeah, right. No disagreement. I'm just here to ask questions and facilitate. All right, so if our no touch is 25, what's the right distance away from that? Now, somebody mentioned 30 feet quickly. One of the reasons I like 30 feet as a limit is that it sort of kind of aligns with the zoning where the setback is frequently 30 feet from the property line. Now this changes 30 feet from the property line to 30 feet from the wetland, but I'm not convinced that 5 feet is the right distance from our no touch.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. I think the way to look at it is how far do we want no structures from our no touch area, which would be at the 25.
Right, exactly. So if we made it 30 feet from the no touch, then it'd be 55 from the wetlands. That's merely an idea.
I think it's maybe worth a shot if the commission wants to have a no structure to consider just putting that at the 50-foot buffer.
Well, yeah, actually that's true. If it's 25 no touch and 25 beyond that of no structure and no hardscapes,
Mm-hmm.
there's
And another way to look, or we can phrase it as such that it's no impervious areas. So maybe things like
pervious pavers for a patio might be exempt.
Well, that's true, because there are newer pavers that are pervious.
Yeah, it's just a spec, just putting so much amount of gravel underneath pavers. So that might be one way to, on those smaller lots, allow them to have a little bit more of a usable area.
Okay. Okay, I'm on board with that. Tamika, you're taking good notes, right? Because I am not.
I'm just a little bit confused. So my understanding is no structure or hardscape within 50 feet of the wetland. But what was the note about impervious surfaces?
That's what we're saying. It's no structures and no impervious surfaces.
Oh, and no impervious surfaces. Got
Yes.
it.
So you're not allowed to build a giant patio with cement blocks within 50 feet of the wetland. Okay. Anything else on the areas we wish to regulate for number 1? Okay, let's talk about vernal pools. It is my opinion, no. I'm not going to give my opinion. I'm going to ask a question. What does the commission think about buffer zones for vernal pools?
Mine's there. I'd like to include it.
I was going to say, you've pretty much made your position clear, Melissa.
I would be in favor of it.
Skip?
I guess so. Not really, but I guess I'll have to agree.
Well, you don't have to agree. This is a discussion. This isn't, we're not making rules yet. We're just talking about how we're going to form them, basically.
I don't think there should be any buffer zone around a vernal pool. Because every one of them dry up and go away. Every one that I've seen, let's put it that way. But that's just me. But Melissa, if you can change my mind, you can try.
So you're saying you think they go away over time?
Well, everyone that I know of dries up in the summertime. Yeah, they do come back in the late fall, late fall and spring, but they seem to disappear.
Yeah, so that's the whole point. That's what the definition of a vernal pool is. So it dries up in those summer months and the hot months. And so during the spring season, it's prime vernal pool habitat breeding. So the area around the vernal pool is the non-breeding habitat for these endangered and other species that use these vernal pools. So they do dry up, but they do come back. So a lot of protection, they are important for the overall protection of a lot of salamanders, fairy shrimp, wood frogs, a bunch of others.
Okay, no, I mean,
So Melissa, how large a buffer would you think would be appropriate around a vernal pool?
Usually, the most, when I was looking through the bylaws, a lot of them, just add it as a resource area themselves, so it gives the 100-foot buffer zone if it's not, because a lot of them are within BVW, so they do have some sort of edges, but, this is more protecting the ones that are kind of in isolated areas that might be considered even an isolated vegetated wetland, but in reality is really more of a vernal pool.
Mm-hmm. Jared?
I think I'd be okay with it as a resource area, and therefore it having a 100-foot buffer, because that wouldn't necessarily mean that you couldn't still do work within 100 foot of that vernal pool, but there would be conditions to protect it. And I think obviously that's really what we're trying to do here, is just make sure that it's protected if there is earth disturbance going on nearby. So Yeah, I'd be in favor of that.
So let me ask you, wait a minute. If you got a small vernal pool on the edge of your hayfield, okay? You're telling me I can still mow right through it and take the hay off? Or I have to stay 100 feet away?
So you still, if you have an agricultural exemption, your exemptions would still hold.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
Yeah, that was one important thing that I wanted to include, because Rutland is such an agricultural community, we don't want to get rid of those exemptions.
Yeah, I think, I like that number 10. I think we need to talk about that quite a bit. But, so let me ask Skip's question a different way. If somebody was going to, today, somebody could put lawn right up to the vernal pool, or hardscape right up to the vernal pool.
As long as it's not within a BVW or other resource area.
Yeah, okay, well, yes, we'll call it isolated, or
Yeah.
far enough away from the,
Correct.
so,
When we would have no jurisdiction over it.
right.
No, sir.
And it is that case where I think we really ought to talk about adding some buffer zone. 100 feet feels a little scary, but it would at least be consistent. I don't know if that's a virtue or a vice, but it would be consistent. And overall, I've got to say, I'm not in favor of altering the land around an isolated vernal pool. And you're right that that if it's not isolated, they'll have other protections anyway. So maybe it's best to take a single consistent swath rather than trying to carve out this much if it's isolated, this much if it's in a BVW, this, or, you know, whatever the conditions are. And Skip will be going over all these again as we start writing these to make sure that we all agree on what should be going on.
Okay, Peter, what about vernal pools and some with the logging people in the woods? What are you looking to stay away from them, 100 feet, 50 feet, 25 feet? When you're logging off a chunk of land?
So if they have a forest cutting plan, you know, that goes through DCR, which already is exempted through us.
Oh, okay, all right,
Yeah.
no, I just thought of that off the back of my head when I was.
No, it's a good question. I mean, it's things we need to think about, all the if, whens, buts, and hows.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would still be protected with DCR, which is forest cutting.
Okay, thank you.
So Melissa, when you say to include, is all of this in the bylaw, or is a bunch of this, some of this in bylaw and some in regs?
Yeah, it's mostly in regs, I think. You know, it's really, there's some minimal stuff that we should include, like, you know, just outlining the resource areas, and some of the basics, but a lot of it we want to keep in the regs. And I think that's what number 14 was about, to specifically put in the bylaw that all it takes is a majority vote of the commission at a public meeting to revise the regulations.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to suggest that we take a page from planning and require a public hearing on modifications to the to adopt or to modify regs, amend regs.
Yes, sorry, yeah, still a public hearing, but only would require a majority vote versus town meeting vote.
Yeah, not town meeting and not select board. No offense to the
Right.
select board. Okay. So I think we're at the point where vernal pools might be controversial. That just gives us a note of something to think about as we start constructing this whole thing. Replication at So I would say at least 2-to-1 ratio. Although, if we give them a minimum, that's what everybody will do. I don't know how practical it is to go beyond 2 to 1. There are lots of places where 2 to 1 is easy, and there are a number of places where 2 to 1 is hard. But again, we can condition it to allow smaller replication areas.
Right, basically anything you include in your bylaw or regulations, as long as you put a section in that, you know, you can request a waiver, then they can request a waiver for any performance standard that we
Yes.
put in.
Okay, I just noticed that it's 5 to 8, so we'll do one or maybe only one more, then I'll bring up another topic and we'll adjourn for the night. So, production of IVW, which is isolated vegetated wetlands?
Yes.
Okay, on a case-by-case basis. Do we need a better standard than case-by-case basis?
I see this most commonly when I was looking through the bylaw, so usually it's just an informal, you know, submission to the commission asking them to make a determination if it's regulated under our bylaw. Because some of them, to be quite frank, are really crappy.
Right.
Just, you know, they're protected in themselves, but, you know, do we really need a buffer zone on them? You know, I think like even we saw in the building permit that we were talking about in Pommogussett, there's a lot of instances of areas that are just, maybe they dug it out because there was gravel and now it just sits there and holds water and has
Right.
become an ODW.
Yeah.
No, I like the case by case myself.
Yeah, I just don't know how to write the bylaw or the reg that says sometimes we'll take an interest and sometimes we won't.
I have the section in mind I can send
You
to
do?
if you'd like.
Great, okay. All right. That sounds good. So I think we've got 1 through 4 covered. It is very nearly time that we hit our 2-hour time limit, so I want to talk about June 1 meeting very briefly. Well, maybe not very briefly, because this is me. As we all know, well, June 1 is going to be a fascinating date in terms of the number of meetings, and we may have a quorum problem. Because Melissa's going to be traveling, and I would rather find a way that doesn't involve Melissa for the hearings we need to continue and whatever other votes we need to take. Because if there's something I don't like, it's interrupting somebody's vacation. Just to qualify, never mind, I won't finish that sentence. So, we actually have a couple different options. One of the things I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to get Joe to join on June 1. Because he's still a member, so he can be here and he can take part and in the hearings. And as long as Jared and Skip and I are also there, we will have quorum. And if Bill's better and back, and we have no idea, that would be even better, but nature will do what nature will do. So we'll have to wait for that. So first, let me stop this share because we don't need that anymore. So all I can say right now is if it looks like June 1 can't go off because we can't get a quorum, we're going to have to hold a special meeting. So what does everybody think about those scary words? Do I know when we can hold a special meeting? No, I have no idea. And actually there is yet another option that we completely don't have a June 1 meeting and we continue every hearing with the applicant's permission until June 15. I suspect the applicants won't object. My gut tells me that any of the new hearings, well, it's gonna be based on waiting for Mr. Harity to, do we have all his paperwork, Melissa? Melissa, excuse me, Tamika.
We do. So my only question with this is that in order to publish for the hearings on June 1st, I would have to do it by this Friday.
Oh, that's a good point.
So I would just need to know kind of definitively if we're going to do it or not, because then I'd end up publishing twice and then they would get charged twice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yep, I understand completely. That's a very good
Can
point.
can I just ask, now with Joe and Eric's seats expiring, at what point do you then, if they don't wish to continue, find replacements? Because I know how tough it is with you guys being so close to quorum if only one person isn't here, because essentially 3 people aren't participating.
Right. So, they
I was just
are,
curious.
there is no provision in town bylaw to remove someone from a board. There is actually a small section in MGL, but
No, I don't mean removing somebody, but like, for example, when it says that their seats expire in 2021, is that like December 31st? Or
No.
is that at the same time, like around election time, like when all the other boards,
It's-
elected boards get changed?
it's June 30th, is the end of the fiscal year.
Okay,
Except that if
That's
no
what I
one's
thought.
appointed to replace them, they still carry on.
okay.
I am actually long overdue for advertising, and in fact, so is the select board, for advertising all the seats that are open, that are up for reappointment this year on all the boards. Okay, so, but back to June 1. I will reach out to Joe this week and see if he'll be up to joining us for a meeting. And if it means that that he and I are together, that's okay. Or he and Skip are together, or whatever. We can, in the same location. We can figure that out as long as he's actually available and able to meet. So I'll reach out to Joe and I will let you know. And we may just need to, my least favorite option is having Melissa join us from her vacation. But that is not unfeasible, Melissa suggests, yes?
It should be good, I think. I'll be in LA, so the time change might help me.
So if it comes to that, then I would have an agenda of just the hearings, and we would do no other business.
Yeah, if it's like 20, 30 minutes, I definitely think I can set aside that time. I can make that work.
Okay. All right, so that's going to be the backup plan. I will let Tamika and Melissa know about Joe's stuff so that we can plan June 1 appropriately. I actually think holding a special meeting won't help because just getting people together off the schedule is always tricky. So I think a special meeting is special meeting is my least favorite option. Making Melissa take part is therefore my second least favorite option.
And it's the week before town meeting, and I think FinCom's going to try to meet on Thursday, so there may be other last-minute meetings that week too that might make it hard to reserve.
It
makes me
will
feeling better. I'm working on Thursday.
it will actually be pretty down to impossible for me to show up late in the week. And then that pushes it a week, and then does it make sense to figure it out? Because we couldn't meet the following Tuesday because that's when planning meets. At least we couldn't meet easily the following week on Tuesday. So there's a lot of I don't knows. So my first job is actually reach out to Joe and let Tamika and Melissa know how we're going to approach. Melissa and I will agree on how we're going to approach meeting on June 1, and we'll let Tamika know what's going on. And yeah, because we really do need to meet June 1, no matter what, doesn't matter what we like. All right, anything else on this? Questions or comments? Have I made it confusing enough so nobody knows what's going on anymore? Then I have succeeded.
You're doing a good job at it.
That's play to your strengths. Is there any other business before the commission tonight? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call. Danza.
Aye.
Gentilucci.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Crane, aye. We are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.